Today we are going to start from the Hamiltonian equation of motion, and we all know that Hamiltonian equation of motion, there is a function called Hamiltonian which is defined as the summation between the two interchangeable coordinates, that is pj and qj dot, minus the old function which is the Lagrangian. And equation number 15, you all know this, where pj is the generalized momentum defined by this relation, pj is equal to del L del qj dot, and this is also can be called as the canonical equation. And most generally we know about the canonical equation of motions as the Hamiltonian equation of motions. Those are qj dot is equal to del h del pj, and pj dot is equal to minus of del h del qj, and there is another del h del t is equal to minus del L del t. So there are 2n plus 1 number of first order differential equations, and these equations are known as canonical equations or the Hamiltonian's equation of motions. And see, here the first order differential equations are involved, whereas in the case of Lagrangian mechanics, as we have learned in our previous class, that is your second order differential equation, that is the difference between two mechanisms, one Hamiltonian and the other is Lagrangian. So why they are called canonical? Because knowing one coordinate q, you can know the other coordinate p. They are connected by these equations. They are called canonical equation, just like your object distance and image distance in case of your ray optics. There is 1 by v plus 1 by u is equal to 1 by f can be taken as another example of canonical equation, where you can interchange those two coordinates u and v. That doesn't change any physics. Here also pj and qj are very much interchangeable, and interchangeable by constraint by these equations, 16 equations. So these are called canonical equations of motion. And there is a brief point where it is told that the quantum mechanics and statistical mechanics always deal with the Hamiltonian function, and if you start to understand the quantum field theory, then you should start from the Lagrangian mechanics. These are the salient features of these two. There is another thing which we studied in our previous classes, that for a conservative force, if the holonomic constraints are time independent, that is they are scleronomic, not rheonomic, then Hamiltonian function will be equal to energy and they will be constant. Okay, and if the holonomic constants are time dependent, then the thing will be different, that is Hamiltonian will not represent the energy anymore but remains constant. So these are the advantages of Hamiltonian functions, that it remains somehow constant. Okay, and there is another case where holonomic constants are holonomic constants are time independent and potential does not contain any velocity, but Hamiltonian contains time explicitly. Then Hamiltonian is certainly not constant, but in that case the Hamiltonian is equal to the energy. Those three things which I have discussed now, you can see your previous problems which you have solved in your previous classes for the Hamiltonian equation of motion, and those examples will tell you those things. Okay, now let us note something, that we know the Lagrange's equation of motion, d dt del L del qj dot minus del L del qj is equal to sometimes 0 or sometimes qj. When it is 0, when the this qj, that is the generalized force, is derivable from the potential, that is it can be written as minus del V del Qj, then you can write a 0 over there. But if it is not, that such case of constraint force, those are not derivable from potential, they are not coming from any potential. So Qj will be there and not equal to 0 will be at the right hand side of the Lagrange's equation of motion. And in these cases, the canonical equations, that is the Hamiltonian equations, will take the form of the first equation will be same, the second equation Pj dot is equal to minus del H del Qj, you have to add this term, force should be added up here. This is very much similar to the Newton's equation of motion. See, in case of Newton's equation of motion, the left hand side contains the time rate of change of the momentum and the right hand sides are the forces. So this force is there, inherent force, but external non-conservative force can also be added to the equation. So that physics is reflected once again in the Hamiltonian equation of motion. So our topic is to understand what is canonical transformation. We at this point of time we understood what is canonical equations of motion and what are the canonical conjugate variables. The answer is the canonical equation of motions are nothing but the Hamiltonian equation of motions, 2n plus 1 number of Hamiltonian equation of motions, and the canonical conjugate variables are Pj and Qj, that is the generalized momentum and generalized coordinates, and those are very much independent to each other. Sometimes they are dependent, actually they are dependent by the Hamiltonian equation of motion, but from the beginning you can think of they are different entity. So the canonical transformation, it is a very useful mathematical tool to solve physical problems. Why? Let us suppose we want to transform the space from small q variables to the capital Q variables. Let us take an example of Cartesian to spherical polar coordinate. In Cartesian you have x, y, z coordinates, and in spherical polar coordinate you have r, theta, phi. So if you want to change your coordinate system from x, y, z to r, theta, phi, sometimes the problems may be easier to solve. So such transformations can be called canonical transformations under some conditions. So we are going to learn about those conditions. Say here, let us suppose let us take the previous example which I have told, that xyz coordinate you are going to r, theta, phi coordinate. So r is a function of xyz, theta is also function of xyz, phi is also function of xyz. So you have the old coordinates q1, q2 dot dot qn, n is the number of degree of freedom or generalized coordinates. So and t is explicitly there, and you are going to transform your space from small q to capital Q coordinates. So capital Q coordinates will consisted of again n number of coordinates, 1, 2, 3 dot 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 n. Among them, let us take the ith coordinate capital Qi, which should be function of the all old coordinates in general. Okay, so there are also n number of capital Q's are there. So we are avoiding the such symbolic complications, and we call capital Q as the new coordinates and small q's at the old coordinates. And you should understand that small q means those n number of old coordinates, and capital Q means the n number of new coordinates. And here the P is a canonical conjugate momentum for old coordinates, and capital P stands for the same for the new coordinates. Okay, and Pi is related to, we know that equation. So now let us consider these two equations. We want this transformation from old to new coordinates. So the old system, the canonical equations are, forget about the time part, the del H del T part, you forget about that. Just consider 2n equations which are governed by qi dot and pi dot. So these are well known in the old coordinate system. If we transform the space from the old coordinate small p and small q to the new coordinate capital P and capital Q such that they also satisfies the Hamiltonian equations, Hamiltonian canonical equations of motion, but the Hamiltonian may be changed, say k here, but the equation types are similar. See this equation, qi dot is equal to del H del Pi. Here in case of new coordinates, qi dot is again del k del Pi. So the equations are invariant, we can say. So if they are invariant, then the transformation of coordinate from small q to capital Q coordinates will be called the canonical transformation. Okay, this is the definition of canonical transformation. Okay, let us find a condition when we will get the canonical transformation. So for this, consider the steps from equation 18a. This is the Hamiltonian's principle. We know this. Hamilton's principle for virtual work. Delta is the virtual displacement or virtual variation at the end points, at the path t1 to t2, and this is a time integral. See the Hamiltonian principles, here it is written L, that is the Lagrangian, and we put the formula for L, which is pi qi dot minus h. As we have started, we saw this equation, and here in case of the new coordinate system, new set of variables q and capital P, you can write also this kind of equation. Okay, since they are satisfying the same Hamiltonian, same type of Hamiltonian canonical equations with modified Hamiltonian k. So k is there in place of h and p and q are replaced by the capital ones. So these two equations should be valid simultaneously, because old coordinate you jump to the new coordinate, so both of them are present at the same time. So those equations are simultaneous equations. So if they are simultaneous equation, the integrand must be equal, or the integrands in general, the relation between the integrals, you can say blindly that this integral part is equal to this part, because they are satisfied simultaneously, and because the outside there is a delta, limit is t1 to t2, right hand side is 0, so integrand must be equal. Okay, you can blindly write that pi qi dot minus h is equal to capital P pi qi dot minus k, but in general you can write alpha into product of pi qi minus k, where alpha is any number, because you multiply alpha, that is a constant term, in the both sides of the equation 18b, that doesn't make any difference to this equation, because right hand side will be 0 again. So alpha can be there is no harm, but plus df dt, that is a exact differentiation with respect to time of any function capital F is there. Why is there? Is that this term df dt doesn't make any difference to the both of the equations? We have to find out first that why should one write this term blindly here, df dt. So let us consider the integration of df dt. Integration means delta integration t1 t2 of df dt into dt is equal to what we get, we shall see here. This integration you consider, so dt dt will vanish, df will be there, so the result will be function f at t2 minus function f at t1, and outside there is a variation parameter delta. Now the result will be delta will act on this f and this f, so delta f at t2 minus delta f at t1, which will be 0 because each term is 0. This term is 0 and this term is again 0. Okay, why? Because from the principle of variation we know that there is no variation of any function at the end points, that is at t1 point and t2 point. Those points are exactly gettable, there is no variation, but the path of reaching there from t1 to t2 can vary. So in between you can vary, but at the limiting value there is no variation. So those delta f at t2 and delta f at t1 are individually they are 0, so the result is 0. So if the time derivative of any function doesn't make any difference to the variational equation of type 18a or 18b, then we can add in either left hand side or right hand side. In our description it is at the right hand side. So this is the complete general relationship between these two integrands. One can write, one can think the most general relationship between two integrands like this. Okay, this f is called the generating function, which is in your syllabus the generating function. Why generating function? We will come to that point, but at this point of time you just suppose this is a function. Say the equation is written here once again, and here alpha, the constant, the parameter, doesn't give you any say extra physical significance. So we set alpha is equal to 1 for the rest of our talk. So alpha is 1 here, and the complete equation 19 is the relation between the old Hamiltonian and new Hamiltonian, and the old coordinate and the new coordinate. This equation is so much vital. It's the most valuable equation of our present class. So remember this. Now the functions. Okay, let us start here from here. Now you can, the first impression comes in your mind about the function f, that is, it is general function of 4n variables, because there are n number of small q, n number of small p, n number of capital Q, n number of capital P. So there are 4n number of variables in this equation in both left hand side and right hand side. So f in general function of the 4n coordinates you can say, but you have also the canonical equations. So in the canonical equations the 2n number of variables are connected to each other, so the effective number of variables you have is n. Okay, and in case of the new canonical equations, also the same case, that is 2n number of variables are there, that is n number of capital P and n number of capital Q, but they are connected to each other using the canonical equations of motion, that is Hamiltonian equation of motions. So the effective number of variables are n. So there is n variables, and here is also n different variables. So f is a function of 2n variables. So f can be written as function of small q capital Q, or function of small q capital P, or small p capital Q, or small p capital P. So depending upon the sets of independent, here you choose the independent variables as small q and small capital Q. In this case you choose the variables as small q and capital P. So 2n number of variables are there. Here every function contains 2n number of variables, see, but these are the 4 distinguished functions. You can't think any extra kind of f functions than these 4 functions. So let us discuss about f1, f2, f3, f4. That is the 4 kinds of generating functions we will discuss now. First, take the first kind of function QQT. So let us start from the equation 19 and rearrange some terms. And if f1 is a function of small q and capital Q, then what is df dt? Df dt will be del f del q into dq plus del f del capital Q into capital Dq plus del f del t. So it is written here, and you know that small q and small capital Q are n number of terms, so summation is there. So it is nothing but this is written in place of df dt. Okay, in place of df dt it is written capital df dt here. In case of df dt, in place of df dt, it is written as f is now f1, which is a function of small q and capital Q. So you have these equations and you rearrange just taking the same and multiplying both sides by dt. So q dot will be dq, and here also capital dq, and here the dt will be multiplied here, dt will be multiplied there, k minus h. So taking the common terms in the groups, you can see here the 2n number of variables are there, that is qi, capital Qi, and they are independent, and dt is also independent thing. So the coefficients of each terms, each differentials must be zeroed individually. So pi is equal to df1 dq1, and capital Pi is equal to also df1 dqi capital Qi. Here I can see some printing mistake happened there because it is plus. Okay, this is not minus, this is this have to be plus, because Qi is taken over the left hand side and plus will be minus, so minus is common and this will be plus. Okay, so if this is plus, this is equal to 0, so Pi is equal to minus of del f1 del Qi. Okay, the equation here is right, correct. These equations are very much correct. And the last equation will give you k is equal to h plus del f1 del t. If f1 is not a function of time explicitly, here we have taken explicitly time, but if we do not take f1 is in our hand, we can choose f1 conveniently. So f1, if you choose, is not a function of time explicitly, so del f1 del t will be 0 and k will be h. So the Hamiltonian is conserved in case of such canonical transformation, and these are very much useful. See another interesting fact from equation 20a and 20b. You can see that there is a function of q and q, and left hand side is p. So you can solve it. You can deduce capital Q in terms of small p and small q, and put this capital Q here, then capital P again will be in terms of small q and small p. So we can write here capital Q is actually in terms of small q and small p, and capital P is in terms of small q and small p, which are the transformations we did. So this can be checked, and yes, consider the next function f2, so that is a generating function of second kind, which is a function of small q and capital P. Okay, in a previous function the generative function was a function of small q and capital Q, and in case capital P is replaces the capital Q, then we are going to add this term minus ddt over sum over pi qi to the equation 19, as this term also doesn't make any difference to that equation, because if you integrate, that is the variational integration done on this term, we will get the result 0 again, because see here ddt over what is there? ddt over sum over capital Py sum into capital Qi. So dt will vanish, the variational equation, dt will be vanished, and d of this will result to the summation as the answer of the integral, and which is at t2 upper limit and t1 is the lower limit, and delta is outside the upper limit minus lower limit. So delta of the function pi qi at t2 minus delta of the function at pi qi at t1 are also 0 by the same reasoning, that is, there is no variation at the limiting points of any kind of function according to the principle of variation. Okay, so result is 0. So we can add this term into the equation 19. So equation 19 looked like this, because this actually contains two times ddt over pi qi means pi into qi dot plus qi into pi dot. So two terms are written here, and df dt is there. See again equation 19, df dt. Now f is a function of small q, capital P and t. So three terms will be there, del f del q into dq plus del f del capital P into capital dp plus del f del t. So let us check. Three terms here, one is this, second one is this, third one is this by chain rule, and the last term we have added this term because this is the null term basically. So this will give you an advantage to cancel those two terms, this term and this, they will cancel each other, and now regroup the common terms qi dot, take the common of these terms into a bracket and multiply both sides by dt as we have done in the previous problem. So it will give you this, and here qi and capital Pi are independent. We have taken this qi and pi as independent variables, so the each coefficients will be 0 independently, and it will give you these two equations, and from where you can find small pi and capital Qi, because you know small q and capital P, and they will be find out by these functions. If you know these functions, f2 function is known, then you can find the small p or capital Q from these equations, two equations, equation number 21. And as we have discussed that if we don't take any time explicitly, then this will be 0. The same Hamiltonian reflects to the new coordinate system once again. These are the advantages of the generating function f2. So by proceeding in the same manner, by adding some different terms, or it is written here, but you have to do it by your own. And let us check that these equations are formed for the function of f3, that is third kind generating function, and you should get those forms by your own by using the same techniques that we have discussed in our above two problems. And similarly f4 can be evaluated using this technique, and this also should be done by your own. Now another important property we will discuss now. So in every case, you can see in case of f1, f2, f3, f4, four kind of generating functions, if all are not a function of time explicitly, then you should get k is equal to h, that is new Hamiltonian is equal to the old Hamiltonian, that is Hamiltonian in one reference frame is equal to Hamiltonian in the second reference frame, both are equal, not just invariant, they are equal in magnitude also. So this can be exploited. If you put k is equal to h in the equation number 19, so let us go to the equation of 19. Yes, equation 19, h and k will be vanished. Okay, so this equation will be what? sum over pi qi dot minus pi capital qi dot is equal to df dt. If you multiply dt in the both side, then it will give you pi dqi minus capital Pi into dq d of capital Qi is equal to df. So see, it is written here. Yes, from the equation 19 you can find out this equation. What does this equation tells you? The left hand side is a complicated differential of 4 variables, but the right hand side you can see just differential of a function, that is exact differential. So this summation should be exact differential of any analytic function, and if this equation does satisfy this, then you should tell that the transformation is canonical one. That is the condition for transformation to be canonical, is that this differential, this complicated differential should be equal to an exact differential or perfect differential. Okay, let us stop at this point and take some examples, numerical examples on the generating function and the canonical transformations. Okay, let us move on to the numerical examples. Yes, the first example of simple harmonic oscillator. Let us solve the simple harmonic oscillator problem using the canonical transformation. Here the Hamiltonian is this, p square by 2m plus half k q square. You know all this, and the q and p are the old coordinate. Say in Cartesian coordinate it is px and x small q is actually x. So this is well known to us, and if you choose this given, if you choose the generating function of first kind f1 as c into q square into cot q, it is given. Okay, at this point of time it is given, it is well researched article, this function is taken, this function is assumed by trial and error method, you can say. So you have to assume this function, you have to remember this function and start from here. So equation 20 and 20b, that is for the equations for the first generating function f1, you can get the two variables small p and capital P by these two equations, and this will give you in terms of small q and capital Q. And see, small q can be evaluated from here. This equation number 4 will give you the small q as a root over of capital P by c into c is a constant into sine q, because root is taken over in both sides. And if you get the value of small q, it will put you will put this in the equation number 3 and you will get the small p, which is this. And now if we get the small p and small q in terms of the new coordinate system capital P and capital Q and put it into the Hamiltonian, so the Hamiltonian will give you in terms, will assume the form in terms of capital P and capital Q. See here, but if now again to simplify the problem, we can choose the constant c as root under of mk by 2. If you choose root under of mk by 2, then mk will cancel and the denominator 4 cancel the numerator 4, so it will give you sine square q plus cos square q, which is 1. So the life will be simpler if you choose c is equal to root under of mk by 2. So it will give you new Hamiltonian, that is old Hamiltonian, is equal to p capital P into root under of k by m. Now p. Now what is p? P is the new momentum in the new coordinate system. As the Hamiltonian doesn't have any coordinate q, capital Q is missing here. Capital Q missing, what will give you it will give you a benefit. Q is missing here, that means Q can be called a cyclic coordinate. So del K, del Q is equal to 0, which is equal to minus P dot from the equation of Hamiltonian's equation of motion. We saw that P dot is equal to minus del H del Q dot. In case of new coordinate system, del K del Q dot, but del Q, sorry. So del K del Q is 0. So P dot is again 0. Just consult the Hamiltonian equation of motion. You can find out that P dot is equal to 0. That means P is equal to constant. P is equal to constant, and the constant is assumed here alpha. So you can put it there. So K is equal to constant. So Hamiltonian is constant and equal to the energy. That is also verified. But we want to go elsewhere, where the Q dot is equal to, from Hamiltonian equation of motion we can the first Hamiltonian equation of motion, Q dot is equal to del K del P, and K is written in terms of P. So del K del P will be your root under of K by M. So root under of K by M is equal to Q dot. So Q is equal to root under of K by M, which is a constant, into T time plus beta, which is a constant again, and put this Q into the equation of small p and small q. Here small q is equal to P by C, that is, it is a constant because P is alpha, a constant term, so it is a constant, into sine of omega t plus alpha type. And here P, you can also replace P by alpha, which is a constant, and Q by this term, root under of K by M into T plus beta. So we will get the coordinate Q is equal to function of sine and momentum as a function of cos. Those are all periodic functions, and this could be solved very much easier technique using the direct equation of motion using the Newtonian mechanics, that is F is equal to minus kx and nx double dot is equal to minus kx, and solve the double second order differential equation. You will get x is equal to sine omega t plus beta. But here the process is so much lengthy, so the linear harmonic oscillator problem is taken here just to show that the canonical transformation technique can solve a mathematical problem, physical problem, but not so easy in some cases. The easy cases will be complex, but the complex case where the Newtonian mechanics just very difficult to use, you can use the canonical transformation, and in the complicated cases can be very easily solved using the canonical transformation technique. But we have only this example in our syllabus, so we should stop here, and some another examples are there. You can see those in your own, but they are so much important that some equations can be written, and it can be asked that show that those transformations are canonical. Say q is equal to this term, that is function of small q and small p are there. Also capital P in the function of small q and small p are given, and it is asked that you show that these transformations, that is from old coordinate to the new coordinates, are canonical. So you have to check this differential is a perfect differential or not. So just differentiate those terms, find out capital dq and put it there, and some manipulations you can get this term as a perfect differential form, d of something. So you can tell, yes, it is perfect differential, so the transformation which was given in the problem is a canonical transformation. Some similar problems are there, but you have to check these problems by your own. These are very much important, and those problems are have appeared in many competitive exams in many times, so this will be very much you have to be very careful to do such problems. These problems we will discuss in our next class, the Poisson bracket problems. At this point of time you can solve this. So thank you.